Welcome to the Magdalene Voices, giving voice to those silenced for centuries through sacred conversations with beautiful, illuminating souls. I'm your host, spiritual business coach, mentor, catalyst, and facilitator, Maria Estella. I serve experienced, soul-driven, heart-based spiritual entrepreneurs, business owners, Magdalenes rising, and radiant beings just like you with the expansion and growth of yourself and your business, aligning you with your deep inner truth, bringing to life that which you're here to birth, and supporting you in expressing your soul's divine purpose through your being and your doing in this lifetime. If you haven't already, I highly encourage you to join my newsletter to stay connected and updated. You can do so on my website, mariaestella.com, where you can also find previous episodes and their show notes. And if you have ever wondered about your Magdalene connection and calling and whether you are a Magdalene, I invite you to download the free Magdalene blueprint I have created for you. Go to mariaestella.com/AYM to get it. Also, if you're a soul-driven, heart-based spiritual entrepreneur, don't forget to check out my podcast, Spiritual Business with Maria Estella. It's designed to inspire you, empower you, guide you, nurture you, and activate you. You can find it on YouTube as well as everywhere podcasts are being broadcasted, or click the link in the show notes. Today I'm joined by Kristine Ojken. Kristine is a carrier and orator of the ancient mysteries, an energy worker, artist, healer, and coach, and if you ask me, a powerful oracle embodying her Magdalene heritage. She works with the mysteries of old times and weaves magic and sacred wisdom into an everyday modern lifestyle, because the essence of all that we long for is already within us. She believes that universal sacred knowledge is essential in liberating your inner God and expanding your unique greatness in the world so that it may, and you, enhance love and light in the world through deep, dark work and transformational healing processes. In her work and art, she blends the realm of feminine and masculine, as well as the modalities of numerology, mentoring, healing, and body work. Going in, this episode had two starting points, Easter and the Magdalenes, and as you'll hear, expands into one magnificent, deep, powerful, and sacred transmission in which Kristine allows her wisdom to flow freely. As always, I encourage you to listen with an open heart and an open mind and take only what serves you and leave the rest. Also, please note that the Magdalene Voices will be taking a break and will be back on May 3rd. Here is our sacred conversation. So, Kristine, I have, yes, I have just two things on my piece of paper in preparation for this recording or this episode, but you have been on my list of people, my list of Magdalenes to join in sacred conversation with for, I guess, more than a year. So I am beyond thrilled that you're here to share your wisdom, your wealth of knowledge with the listeners and the viewers of this show and podcast. And the two things that I have on my list is Easter, because we've got Easter coming up, and this is being recorded right before, and this will come out just before Easter, just before Palm Sunday. And the second thing I have on my list is Magdalenes, the Magdalenes. So the goddess is starting to moving, huh? So the thing is, and people, the listeners of this podcast know that my view and take on Easter and on Yeshua and Mary Magdalene and all the Magdalenes and the Essenes is different from what we're usually being told. And I would love for you to share your wisdom on Easter, what it is, why it is, how it is, how it's been for ages and centuries and, millennia probably. So knowing how much of an oracle you are, I think I've given you enough. So I'm just gonna give you the floor and say, there you go. And I'll jump in when I have questions or things.
Well, thank you very much. And I'm so thrilled to be here too. Yeah, let's just dive into it. So just as you mentioned, there isn't one truth. There are many. And that is a part of as I see it, the divine feminine era, that we actually get to take what has been a very, very one-sided story and actually fold it out like a fan almost. And that is the mystical side to it. And of course, the mystical being the female divinity, the feminine goddess.
Yes.
So it's just so beautiful that we kind of step into this era where things can be multifaceted and having multi-dimensional layers to it. So I'm not here to say like the Christian version, the Orthodox Christianity is somewhat wrong or somewhat misunderstood or misguided, but it can perfectly coexist with all the other stories about the Magdalene. And to me, what's mostly important is that we are stepping into a practice of discernment ourselves, what is actually making sense for us.
Yes.
So for instance, I'm a trained historian, I'm an Egyptologist, and that of course gives me a insight to things, obviously, since most of the writings we have are in languages that are familiar or the hieroglyphic system. And that gives a whole other perspective as to one who knows Latin and knows the Greek versions of the Testaments and so forth. But the Magdalene stories are many, and no one exclude the existence or the truth of another. So that's at least the entrance I wanted to make perfectly clear to everyone. So no matter what truth we each hold to be ours, there's nothing better or more correct or incorrect than another. But we are called, as I see it, to be a bit more discerning into what is the historical facts and what are the other layers, what are the mythical dimensions, what are the other levels of existence. Also, as we are actually coming through a transformation from the old paradigm into the new paradigm, we're also called to see to administer better the difference between the esoteric and the exoteric, the inner and the outer versions. So we're so familiar to see the world and view the world and navigate in the world from an outer perspective, because this is where we use our five senses. This is what we can see. This is what we can measure. This is what we can objectify and look upon with a distance. We can extract it from ourselves, and we can look at it, and we can decipher it, and we can do all sorts of things with it. But what we are opening up to now is the inner sight, the inner perspective, the inner realities, the inner realms of existence. And this is something that does not only pervade the whole Magdalene story and Yeshua story, but it also goes even far beyond in the Isis and Osiris, the ancient Egypt ontology, the worldview, the way to see magic, and the way to exist in a world and understand the world in as well as out. So there's a whole layer of understanding to the Eastern mystery that actually has an even earlier source within it, which is the Isis Osiris story about the masculine and feminine. So that was kind of the background.
Yes.
So what is Easter other than a story? Well, you could see it as a dramatized kind of psycho-spiritual travel of evolvement, of awakening, of transformation, and henceforth also an initiation. So not only is it the story of the initiation of Yeshua, but also the story of how the divine feminine actually is needed to hold space for that initiation to take place. And that is such a beautiful side to it, or aspect to it, because we're so used to only looking at the male or the masculine outpouring of divinity into society, into the way that the world has been organized for centuries and even thousands of years. And we tend to see that in general, of course. I know that there are diverse perspectives as well, but in general, I think it would be fair to state that we have a tendency to look upon this, the masculine energy, and see, but why is it dominating the female, or where is the female, or why aren't women in these and these perspectives, or in these and these situations of power and control and dominion and stuff like that? But what we are kind of not grasping in that perspective is that the feminine works beyond. It works outside plain view. It works under the surface. It works in mysterious ways. So it's not so obvious. It's not so literally understood. It's not so easily seen or experienced, not as directly experienced and easy to decipher and to see.
That's probably where the
masculine.
You say there's this quote that says that behind every good man is a greater woman, or something like that.
Yeah.
Like that. Yeah. Now I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I cut you off. Go ahead.
Yeah, and at the same time, you also, because even further into the mystery, you have the masculine playing that role as a the backdrop to the to the feminine.
Yes.
So this is actually what Easter is very much about, because what is Yeshua doing in those 3 days?
Yes.
While going through the initiation of death.
Yeah.
Well, one way to look at it is that not only according to the Gnostic text, but also to the ancient Egyptian text, which has like 3,000 years of narrative on exactly this kind of narrative. Yeah. Is that he's diving into the underworld, which means the world beyond what we can see, hear, and feel. Yeah. He's diving into the metaphysical realms that are chaotic because we can't see them. Obviously, they're dark. Yeah. We can't discern one thing from another, and then we can't. It becomes peril to us because if you can't see anything, then how are you going to protect yourself? And what is he doing down there? Well, he's actually retrieving the feminine. He's retrieving Sophia. Oh. He's retrieving the light parts that was dismembered and forgotten. So in that way, his journey becomes our journey into retrieving the light parts of ourselves that because we are now in matter, we are in a physical world, we needed to let go or hide. So the story behind this, with regards to Sophia, is that Sophia is the feminine aspect of the Godhead from before you had gender attached to God and Goddess. Yes. But you just have energy. You have a unity. You have a pleroma. That's the word for it in Coptic and in Greek. That's the unity of the all intelligent, the energy behind it all. And at a certain point, they kind of divide themselves into these two counterparts, the masculine and the feminine, just weaving in and out each other, creating, retracting from creation, creating, retracting from creation. And at a certain point, Sophia sees that there's a part of the created world that does not hold the divine spark within. So she throws herself out of this part of, we could call it heaven, because we of course we cannot, it's a mystery, of course we cannot grasp it fully. But she throws herself out of this part of heaven and falls into matter. So from the highest level of energy, where everything is light and easy and pure and light, then you fall into almost like, when divers go deep to the bottom of the sea, you have the gravitational force that puts pressure on them. So it's almost the same picture you get when she falls through the layers of matter, becoming ever and ever more dense, to the part where it's so dense that she cannot fully grasp, she cannot recover or even remember her greatness. This is what we all do when we come into this physical world, taking on a body, and therefore is somewhat imprisoned in a body. We are embodied. We are in the matter. And in order to retrieve the remembrance or activate the remembrance of our light being, our pure being, which is to guide us and help us navigate this world, which is full of joy and it's full of pleasure, but it's certainly also full of pain and hindrance and resistance and all of that. And so we need almost to let go of our light being in order to divert ourselves to another place in ourselves, in order to separate ourselves from our divine part, for us to regain it, to find the way back to it. Because it's in finding that way back to it that we can fully appreciate the reunion. It's like if you have a friend and you wouldn't really know they were a friend if you knew how it would be without them. It's because you re-engage. It's because you revisit them and kind of nurtures that commitment or that communication and that relationship. So in order to have somebody help her raise her up, she calls out to something she cannot know what is, because she forgot. She forgot about her masculine counterpart. So she's just like crying out for help. Help me, somebody. And what the masculine energy does is to extract a bit of itself, because if he's holding up the creation, he cannot leave. If he was to do the same fall as Sophia did, the nameless one, then everything would collapse. So he extracts a part of himself, and this is of course Yeshua. This is the Son, and sends that Son down into matter in order to reconnect with Sophia and uplift her and reinstall her in her full presence. Now also with the recording, with the remembrance, with the experience of having been deep down in the darkness, having fully retrieved herself. That's beautiful.
And I'm like, I knew this was gonna be good. I'm like, Okay, so a few things. So when you mentioned, the 3 days of where Yeshua is in the darkness and can't see, I think for the first time I also understood that there might also be a blinding phase, because that's something that I've been curious about, because there seems to be in our awakening journeys, there seems to be times where we are blinded, and I've seen that to be purposeful. Once you understand that God is good and loving and all, compassionate and caring, you also understand that you're not being, constantly tested, but you're being supported. And so in what you just said, it sounds as though he's also being other than because to me there's a difference between being in darkness and being blinded. So being in darkness, there's challenges and you're trying to find the light, but when you're being blinded, you have your senses being taken away from you, and that forces you to actually activate your inner senses in order to be able to navigate.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
So what's the question?
So I guess my question is that what you were referring to, or when you said that he goes into the darkness and becomes blind?
Well, in order to do that, let me just chew a bit on this. I think I would differentiate it like this: that Sophia, she's completely lost. She's out of alignment. She cannot even, that's when everything is hopeless. That's an existential crisis. That is what we experience when we are so out of touch with anything. Yes. That we need to call out for help. Yes. And that is the ultimate letting go. Yes. I cannot do this on my own. No. Yeah. And so what Yeshua does is from his human perspective, because in his manly form, in his physical form, that would almost be the same. But there's a difference, because he is sent from the nameless one, the grand masculine. Yeah. So a part of him is inherent. It is inherently that the same masculine, the divine masculine. Yeah. So he has the connection, but he has to go through the initiation of death in order to focus. I think you could see it like this. I'll try from another angle. Mm-hmm. As I said before, we're so used to attuning ourselves to our outer world. That is where the Newtonian physics work. This is some of the biggest mysteries to most of the spiritual community as I can see it, because in all of this thing about setting intentions, working with manifestation, there tend to be an almost immature, without judgment, but immature perspective that if you just think hard enough into something, you can make it happen in the physical world. But there's a deeper understanding to it. Yeah. And that deeper understanding comes with the quantum physics. Yes. So we are all both Newtonian physics people walking around in the exterior, in the outer world. Yes. But we are also a metaphysical or quantum being inside. Yes. And that has to do with matter. Yeah. So you and I can both grab our arms on the table and the computer and say, "Oh, I can feel this. This is a solid thing." Yeah. But actually, it's not. Not if you go deep enough down into the smaller parts, subatomic level. Yeah. It's not. No. And at subatomic level, the things or the gizmos that exist in that level are not obeying the laws of Newtonian physics. They're obeying the law of quantum mechanics. Yes. And that's a whole other difference. Yeah. And how we are divine in human form is that on quantum level, we can engage with the gizmos with our intention. Yes. And cause it to give it a gravitational force. It's not a physical gravitational force, it's a metaphysical gravitational force. And that makes us become magnets of energy. And that is what the law of attraction is actually about, if you dive deeper into the layers. Yeah. And what I will come to the point.
I know.
Once upon a time, Adam and Eve. I know it's complicated, but please stick with me. This is what the ancient Egyptian high alchemy is about.
Yes.
To strengthen your meta being, your metaphysical being, or your quantum existence so much.
Yes.
That it's heavy enough or dense enough with light in order for you to go beyond death. So this is what, as I see it, the Magdalene is initiating with Yeshua.
Yes.
Because you need both the masculine and the feminine counterpart, otherwise you won't have the battery.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah.
But you need both kind of juices to get the motor working, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and this is also why she anoints him on Palm Sunday. It's a part of initiation. That's a part of preparing him for going beyond the outer world.
Yeah.
So he needs to pull all his energy within into the mythical realm. Yeah. Because this is where he's going to uplift Sophia. Yeah. And go on that quest. I think, and this means that to the outer world he's dead. There's no presence. Yeah. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. It makes total sense. And I guess for some, if someone's listening and who's very, very new, I would recommend going back over some of the episodes, the other episodes. I'll in the show notes, I'll include a few that you can go through in terms of the mysteries and so forth, because so that you can gain a deeper understanding, because to me it makes total sense. And one of the things, and I'm not sure if she mentioned this on the recording, or whether this was in a conversation between her and me, or if this is something I just did my own research on, but spikenard, the oil that she anointed him with, as far as I've seen, and this was I was in a sacred conversation with Lina Rose, who's traveled to southern France and been, going to the mystical sites there for Mary Magdalene. I think this was she who first mentioned this to me, that spikenard is actually a very, very powerful sedative, or a drug essentially that supported his death in terms of not feeling the physical pain of the human body. This is something that I thought was, I haven't done my a full research, but I thought this made total sense in certain terms of the anointment. As you said, that was for the inner journey, as well as for the outer journey, because in the physical realm we feel pain and so forth, and being able to transcend that, support it. If you're completely drugged, it's easier to get crucified by that. So yes, absolutely beautiful. So tell us more.
To me, that is not necessarily untrue, but with regards to my understanding of it, it's secondary, because what the Gnostic tells us and what the ancient Egyptian ontology or cosmology tells us is that you have to be present. You have to be aware. Yeah. You have to be conscious about what is happening. Yes. And this is why it's painful. So as you yourself said before, when we are out of alignment, when we are totally out of contact with our sight, our divine side, where we can see things distance from our old own wounds from childhood and from earlier life and stuff like that. You are aware of you being out of contact. Yeah. Because that is what causes the actual pain. Yeah. Because it's painful to be separated. Yes. And it's painful to be unaligned. Yes. And one of the original versions of the wording of what later became translated into hell is being out of alignment.
Yes.
Being beside yourself.
Yes.
This is me being inside myself. This is me being apart from myself.
Yes.
AKA hell.
Yes.
Because
yes.
I cannot be present with my fullness.
Yes.
I don't have access to my noble qualities of generosity, of compassion, of being able to embrace other perspectives than my own. All of those things.
Yes.
So.
And that is directly true. I mean, I would say that is probably directly relatable to almost anyone who goes through an awakening journey. There comes that point where you're so out of alignment. And it's funny because, you're so out of alignment that you'll believe in God, right? That's like you're so out of alignment where you're willing, like you said, she calls out for something or someone to help her, not knowing what. And I know exactly when that was for me. And so I've seen it in others as well. It's like you're so much in hell that and I even
you're willing to open your heart.
Exactly.
Point. Yes. You're willing to open
Trust.
all the seals, the 7 seals of power.
Yes.
And you're willing to allow something bigger than your mundane version to fill you up, to fertilize you, to impregnate you. This is another thing that's so interesting about I know we're talking about the Easter mystery, but there's a Christmas mystery as well.
Yeah.
When we're talking about the virginity of Mary in conceiving Yeshua.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with the literal. Well, of course, there's a truth to that story as well. But if we dive into again the most psycho-spiritual realms of understanding it, it's not about her being actually impregnated physically or not.
No.
Like having had sex or not. Yeah. It's about her being impregnated by something from within instead of being polluted from something without.
Yes.
Which could be other people's ideas of how the world should be, or other people's ideas of what success is, or how you should be, or what narrative you should fit into.
Yeah.
So that giving in is the impregnation of light into matter.
Yeah. I'm just gonna because that is just big. It's like
it is. This is why you have in ancient Egypt. I think most people are familiar with the symbols of Isis and with the baby son Horus.
Yes.
That which later came to be the Virgin, of course, with Yeshua.
Yeah.
But if you know hieroglyphic system, which of course everyone does. Well, but what is interesting is that Isis has a husband, Osiris, and he's being betrayed. He's in a certain sense of denial. He is being judged. He is being separated. He's being abandoned and dismembered, which is some of the ultimate annihilation you can be, because then you are really unaligned, right?
Yes.
Not only your light fragments are scattered all over, but you're also dismembered in physical form. And if you see to it, that is exactly the same what Yeshua goes through in Easter week. And in that way, you can say that Osiris' journey into rebirth, which is the child Horus, is the same as the old Yeshua's transformation into the resurrected one, where he's transfigured. He cannot be on Sunday of resurrection when Magdalene sees him and they have an intervention. She cannot touch him. He says, "Do not touch me, because I am not fully of this world."
Yeah.
which is totally correct, and which we all know from our own journey through the path of initiation, that we somewhat start by betraying ourselves in being something we are not. We're being out of alignment with ourselves.
Yeah.
And we know how painful that is. It's a
Yes.
pain that's reflected throughout the whole Me Too campaign and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because it's so painful. There's a denial. There's part of us that wants to say, oh, this cannot be true. Because it would be so easy if it was just something we misunderstood or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think we all know that phase of initiation as well, right?
This is just go away.
There's nothing to do with me. Then there's also a kind of judgment where we take a bit more steps into our path, and we look around and we start doing the discernment between, oh, this is the new me, this is the old me. And that becomes reflections in our relationships, in the outer world, and we start to say, oh, yes, no, but we do that by judgment. We judge it according to our new perspective. Is this right or wrong for me? Is this right or wrong for me? Should I leave this relationship? Is it too heavy to me? Is it not? And there's also a part of it where there's a total separation going on and a feeling of fully abandonment. So this would be the dark night of the soul, right? Where we are so out of contact, and we cannot, even if we know that the divine is there supporting us, holding us, supervisioning everything that is happening, we cannot feel it, and it causes intense pain. Yes. And this is exactly what Yeshua experiences as well on the cross, saying, Father, where are you? Yeah. Have you left me? Yeah. So you need the Easter mystery sort of not only describe the phases of initiation from the perspective of what needs to be done, but also how it's experienced. Ooh. Ooh. And on another level, of course, talking into the whole masculine, feminine, what roles that they each have. Yeah. And opening our hearts to the if there is one truth, is that they are both necessary. Yeah. None of us can do it alone. Yes. I'm like you're recalibrating. I know. I'm high-fiving and chest pumping, yes, and I'm allowing people to do like there's so much wisdom in this. So I was going to ask, but I think you kind of answered this, but I think that there's something deeper that I want to have your perspective on, or your wisdom on. So, because as we look throughout the year, like you said, there's Easter, but there's also the Christmas mystery, quote unquote. Mm-hmm. And this has been, Christianity has taken that and had kind of formulated into what it is for many people today. Mm-hmm. But as you also very clearly said, this goes back thousands and thousands of years. It's had to be repeated in the Egyptian mythology and so forth. And one of the things that I like to say very often is that as human beings or spiritual beings having a human experience, we have lost our ability to hold space for that. So to me, in what you just said, and this has been true for me for a long time, is that in what you're saying, there, like you said, that there is the process and there is the inner way and the outer way that is experienced. Mm-hmm. But it's also not something that just happens once a year. No. Or it once in a lifetime, as it did for them. It's something that happens in our lifetimes. Will you speak to that? So in terms of course, it has something to do. It has something to do with the development of the psyche of the humankind, the human species. Yeah. Because what if you are into the evolutionary development of spirituality? Mm-hmm. Or how could we say it? The markings of it, mm-hmm. which would be culture. what are the narratives that are special to each kind of step in the energetic evolvement of human consciousness, then we see it becoming more complex. So, for instance, in ancient Egypt, who acted this out was the pharaoh and the priesthood. Then it became more common in the early stages of, well, it wasn't even Christianity at that time, but in the early formulations or articulations of Christianity, then it became more something that common people experience than once in a lifetime.
Yeah.
Now we are so, we could call it evolved or whatever, that we are taking it on. It's not even an outer experience. We are not watching somebody else doing it for us. We are internalizing the whole initiation process, the whole development into a personal, unique journey. And that is something new, and that has something to do with the progress of the ages and how that undercurrent of energy, being masculine or feminine, because it's kind of fluctuating, right? It takes us through another level of initiation, not only as persons, as human beings, but as a collective consciousness. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah. It's like we've I always say that we stand upon the shoulders of those who came before us,
exactly.
And we become the foundation for those who are to come after.
Exactly.
And
so it's almost like they had to carve the road, and it took so long, it was so heavy, and now the road is already carved, so we can more easily,
and more and more who go through shit, who go through all of that, and clear out the muck, who clear out the dirt, who unveil themselves, who heal themselves, who the more that actually, and when you mention evolved, it doesn't, I don't hear it. It's not like, oh, we're more evolved, blah, blah, blah. It's more, it's basically just
it's
where we're at. Yes. And those who come after us will be more evolved. We can see that in our children, because those that come after us, like the lessons that we've learned. Yes. It makes sense.
And it seems also like the progress is going more rapidly.
Yes.
So, for instance, in this life, we are able to experience more separate lives.
Yes.
Within, like. Just a few generations ago, the normal life would be to stay within, I don't know, 20 miles of your home city, the city of your birth town. You would tend to become what your family had always traded with.
Yes.
You would tend to find someone, getting married, and live with that person in an entire expansion of a lifetime.
Yeah.
You would tend to be more stagnant, more consistent in what you were doing. And this is why in those times, things were very predictable. The outcome of things were predictable. And this also sends, I wanted to say something about that. Because it was predictable, then some of the spiritual tools that we use today, like astrology, numerology, the Enneagram, all of those tools to decipher people and sort of see where's this going, they are under huge reconstruction, because things are not evident going to evolve in a certain way, because now we're much more flexible. Because we're much more flexible, we tend to be into engaging in short-term relationships, in short-term projects, in short-term engagement work-wise, and stuff like that, and to move a lot more. And that also means that we have to go through this this initiation of dying to something and rebirthing into something new.
Yeah.
And that wasn't on the menu, so to speak, 2,000 years ago.
No.
Because there was only one life within a life. Now we get to actually die and resurrect within a living, without actually physically dying. We're dying mentally to something. But we're still experiencing the pain of it.
Exactly. And this is where what you're talking about can actually support people, because once you have that understanding that this is a natural process to go through, that it's a natural life and death cycle, but it's an internal one, it's easier, quote unquote. At least I'm not the first time, but once you've done it a few times, I can promise you it gets easier to surrender into the dying of your own old life and allow for the new. And also in what I just heard, in what you just said, what I heard was also, again, this thing about there being different paths or different truths for you. So if numerology is your thing, or astrology, or human design, or the Enneagram, or any, there are a million different healing modalities, crystals, oils, whatever. Yeah, those are, yeah.
It's not to say that they are not true anymore, or they don't hold truth, but the perspective in using them needs to be retracted from the old paradigm and plugged into the new.
Yes.
Because otherwise it won't work as effective. Does that make sense? But of course, this is over a period. This is not like from today to tomorrow. It's a period of maybe 100 years, who knows? That in that intermediate period where we are now, where we are, almost everyone who will listen to this is rooted still in the old paradigm, because this is our heritage. This is our culture. This is our society. This is our way of living. We are kind of taking small steps, and we are not in a place where that culture has fully developed. So that means it's a step of conscious first and foremost. And then the outer world will sooner or later.
That's accordingly. It's funny, because I actually had a question about that. I'm gonna ask the question, but then I'm also gonna say that that's exactly what I do when I coach people, is that these people have actually made that conscious choice. I'm realizing this now. They've made that conscious choice, but they haven't been able to implement or take action based on that. So that's what So before.
Can I just say something? This is what's causing distress, because a lot of the people in the spiritual community knows that there is something different.
Yes, there's a different way.
We're still experiencing the old paradigm. So there's a conflict between those two.
Yes.
And what all our generation, mostly, as I perceive it at least, we are kind of gate openers, right?
Yes.
Like helping to formulate a new worldview, a new cosmology to understand, to kind of bridge the two.
Yeah, and to align our actions with our gnosis, with our divine feminine.
And in that way, we are Magdalenes as well, because the Magdalene is a tantric, right? In opposites.
Yes.
Not in
the sexual way.
Sexual tantric way, but in the way that tantrism, as I understand it at least, is that this is about alchemy. This is about merging opposites.
Yes.
And the only one who can, this is why the feminine is arise now, because it's the feminine that can mold that into being.
Yes.
And this is why Sophia is called Sophia.
Yes.
Sophia means wisdom. In most not secretive traditions, intelligence is pervaded as masculine, is seen as masculine, right? Okay. Like the intellect, the logos, Christ is the logos, the one that orders chaos into cosmos.
Yes.
But the feminine energy is actually what organizes things into being. Yes. This is why we have organs.
Yes.
Because the feminine part, to put it in an analogy with human existence, is of course being impregnated with some kind of essence, and then using the time to formulate that into a physical being, into matter, and birth it.
Yes.
So this is why we are Magdalenes, all of it. Yes. Also men, for that sake, because
absolutely,
of course, we both have the two counterparts, right?
Yeah. You touched upon this before, and I wanted to ask you and to have your perspective on it, because in terms of, you said, what did you say? You said it was something about judgment and about moving away from it wasn't, you didn't mention old paradigm, new paradigm, but the thing is, the way that I view it, and we've talked about this in private as well, is that we move into the way that we move into something new. You talked about the abandonment of the old. Mm-hmm. And then there comes this judgment of that old. Mm-hmm. But if we do that, that's not very loving or very compassionate or very...
That's why love is not the answer. Truth is the answer.
Oh.
No, I know I'm tickling. This is semantics, right? But just for the sake of it, we all know that if we want to move from A to B, now we're going with the old paradigm because that's the linear movement, of course, this way from your perspective. If we want to create something new in our life that we haven't already experienced, or maybe we just experienced in a small way, and now we want to enhance it and enlarge it and enrich it.
Yeah.
There's some healing work to do.
Yes.
There's something within us that cannot grasp that as a possibility for us to experience.
Yeah.
And then the reason why I say it's not love that's the answer, it's truth, is because as I see it, we all have our different wordings of what works for us. And to me, the wording of, oh, you just have to love it and embrace it, to me, that makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah.
Because I don't have an intrinsic idea what that is.
No.
But that's just not how I work. But what makes sense to me, when people says, spend time and be present with what is.
Yeah.
I don't have to love it.
No.
I don't need to like it.
No.
I don't even have to embrace it.
Yeah.
But if I just can sit with it long enough,
yes,
then it will transform.
Yes. And that to me is love.
That to you is love. Yeah.
That's why.
But I think the reason why it's so important about the whole judgment thing, is because in our outer experience of it, and this is, now we're diving into an area that might get to trigger some people. Yeah. But we will confront that if that's necessary.
Take what serves you and leave the rest. That's what I always say. Yeah.
Exactly. This is spoken with a deep compassion. In times of this initiation happening, because now we are approaching Easter, and this is the story or the process or the mythological transcript or blueprint on initiation.
Yes.
If we blast that out to be not a personal experience, but a collective experience.
Yeah.
What is happening now is that we are being initiated from one paradigm, one worldview into another.
Absolutely.
Because that's more complex than just like one bag of things here and one bag of things here. It's very complex. Because otherwise we wouldn't be sitting here, right? Yeah. If it was easily understood, then it wouldn't be a mystery.
No.
And the thing is that in doing that, we, on a collective basis, meet our own wounds. That is the wound of, I cannot see this happening, as we were just talking about. Yeah. I cannot conceive this to be true. I cannot, how could this ever be?
Yeah.
And when we meet those places as a collective, this is where SoMe goes bananas about pedophilia, about rape, about Me Too, all of those painful, hurtful places about race discrimination.
Yeah.
And this is not a talking to what is good and what is bad or right or wrong. It's just mentioning so we can all become more aware of how do we engage with this pain. Because the minute we experience pain, we come out of alignment. Because we are out of alignment in order to retrieve the light fragments and rejoining the members that were split apart.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So when we are feeling pain, we are not actually in communication with our own embracing noble qualities of generosity, of being able to see other perspectives, of being able to holding space for others. We're just like vomiting of pain.
Yes.
And the vomiting of pain, or the releasing of pain and being acknowledged in that pain, is so valuable.
Yeah.
Because this is where we can start to heal. The thing is, when that takes place on social media, what tends to happen is that there's no healing.
Yeah.
There's only the vomiting.
Yeah.
But then it attracts a lot of other vomiting.
Yes.
And you have this huge spiral of vortex of pain energy.
Yeah.
But not the capacity to actually hold it and hold the space for it and sit with it long enough for it to become something else.
Yes.
Take the journey through the underworld and resurrect as a resource, because that's what it is.
Yes.
In every pain, there is a huge amount of energy that could be sourced as something constructive.
Yes.
But to get to that point, you first have to overcome the painful, the judgmental part of it.
Yes. Exactly.
So there is a judgment part to initiation through death.
Yes.
And this, we will meet it time and time again on our own journey. And as we can see it on social media, it's such a good example.
Yeah.
Because it clearly demonstrates not only the intensity of pain that needs to be relieved, but it actually is also showing us that just releasing it, just blah, that's not healing itself.
No.
That's just poking the wound.
Yeah. And it goes back to what we talked about before in terms of the more of us who do the work of internal healing, the more of us will be able to hold space for the collective healing. So on a personal level, you're able to, that means that
what is done for one is done for all.
Yes.
And this is actually our greatest contribution as individuals, because, and this kind of makes evidence or arguments for this worldview that I have, as a person, I have no way of, I don't know, to do something about the war in Syria or whatever I feel is something painful in the world outside of me.
Yeah.
But where I do have access is to the metaphysical part of me.
Yes.
My quantum space.
Yes.
That is inside of my
yes.
my not only my psyche, but also the inner realms of existence. This is where I can go.
Yes.
I was almost going to say and do my battles, except I'm not going to war. I'm going to be witness. I'm going to witness what is, and the truth will set me free.
Yes.
And that is a way to directly, what do you call it? Påvirke? Impact the outer world.
Yeah. But also, and I get that. So I get it on a personal, internal level, but I also want to add that there is also the collective, the action part of it. So taking action, and that doesn't mean that you have to be on the forefront, but it means it can be sharing positive messages, or it can be supporting whatever groups or
it can, but first and foremost, clean up your room.
clean out your shit. And
clean out your shit.
That's again, that to me is again, that's the alchemical process of a Magdalene is, you're clearing out your shit on a personal level to be able to then support the clearing out of the shit on a collective level. So that and that is about the truth. It is about the truth and the justice and the love for all. That's
but it's also the mechanics of evolution itself.
Absolutely.
And that is something I think it's going to be so interesting when that kind of gets more spread out in what often is a light version of spirituality.
Yes.
Because when we are not in touch with the deeper mysteries, then things are something about being it should be light and easy and
butterflies and love.
And the thing is, you don't have that choice. You cannot choose to be positive if you're in your dark night of your soul, because that's the point of the dark night of the soul. That's just not a choice.
No.
So we need to be able to heal ourselves out of the non-choice way of being into a place where we do have so much alignment that we can actually begin to decipher, I like this. This is me. Then I can arrange my life accordingly. And that's where it becomes easy. Except it's not easy.
Yes. We can go on and on and on and on we do when we are on our calls. Is there something else that, do you have any final words of wisdom other than everything else that you said? But is there something that's asking to be said, or are we complete in terms of what this transmission or sacred conversation was?
Just to remind everyone that I might not in contact with that you are perfect just as you are.
Yes.
You are not out of alignment with your mission. You are your mission.
Yes.
And the more you can hold your own alchemical vessel, that is alchemy. You have a substance to change, you have a vessel to hold it, and you put energy in it in order to transform it.
Yes.
And you are that vessel. Your consciousness and your heart, your presence, is the energy you can put into that magical ball of transformation.
Yes.
And you already have it.
Yes.
So go be it.
Yes.
That's just it.
Kristine, I want to say thank you. I mean, it is killing me to close this down, but I can sense that we need to close this container. I want to say thank you so much for taking the time out to join me in sacred conversation and to share your wisdom. It has been an honor to sit by your fire and just listen to you. And I know that this is going to be really, I was going to say revolutionary. I don't know where that word came from, but it's going to be very unveiling and healing for a lot of people, I can sense. I'm going to be sharing, all of links to everything that you've got, your Instagram, your Facebook, if that's there, your website, everything. So people can find that in the show notes. I just want to let people know that they can find that in the show notes. Thank you.
Thank you.
That is what I had for you in today's episode of the Magdalene Voices. For all of the deeds and the details, find the show notes on my website, mariastella.com. Know that I would love to hear how it resonated with you and what you got from it. So tag me on Instagram or leave me a comment on either my website or YouTube. Finally, if it served you, please take a moment to share it with a friend or on social media. God bless.